Thank you for joining us on today's Drug Delivery Innovation Showcase, which is sponsored by Aerie Pharmaceuticals, Allergan, iPoint Pharmaceuticals, Genentech, and Piper Sandler. To maximize your online experience, please pay attention to the Chat, Polls, and People tabs on the right-hand column. Post comments or questions in the stage chat for the entire audience to see and respond to. Throughout the sessions, we will be posting live interactive polls to collect data from all the online participants. Be sure to connect with other participants online today by scrolling through the list on the People tab. You will see the list of everyone that has registered. Those with a green dot are currently logged on. Simply click on their name to either send a text message or invite them to a live video chat. A small red dot next to the mail icon will indicate that you have received a direct message. Also note that our virtual platform will remain open for 1 hour following the last panel discussion to ensure that any direct communication between participants is not cut off. Without further ado, please welcome the chair of today's event, Sharon Bacalash, to kick off our program.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all who joined us. My name is Sharon Bacalash. I'm an eye surgeon by trade who throughout my career in corporate America has been involved with drug delivery in multiple capacities. First, in evaluating external new technologies to enrich the pipeline of strategic companies like Alcon and then Novartis, and later on supporting both clinical development and business development efforts of small companies in that space. Today, I head a consulting company. We work with startups in the various stages of development to offer a one-stop shop solution, clinical development, business development, manufacturing, and regulatory consulting services. We also work with established companies to enrich, diversify, and optimize their product portfolio. I'm happy to debate drug delivery technologies in ophthalmology today, achievements and challenges with you. So the next generation of advanced drug delivery technologies is already here and has been for a while. Stepping up from the second generation of smart drug delivery technologies to a third generation is characterized by tackling both physiochemical and biological barriers, opening the door to more targeted and controlled release profiles. The ability to upload a growing array of APIs and overcoming size, polarity, charge, and hydrophobicity brings a great potential for both lifecycle management for existing products as well as approaching new targets. So let's start with the good news. Ophthalmic drug delivery is doing great. On this slide, you can see data provided by Piper Sandler analyzing differences between the drug delivery ecosystem and novel API companies, where we see a growing trend since 2015 to date. Starting from the far left side, IPO size of drug delivery companies as compared with novel drugs has been growing steadily, both in the number of deals and in aggregate size. With regards to pre-money valuations, while those has been high for novel drugs, there hasn't been any IPO done since 2018. Drug delivery, on the other hand, has been growing steadily, with 2020 being a record year for that to date. Mean pre-money valuation for drug delivery companies in those 5 years was averaged around $183 million, while it averaged around $439 million for novel drug IPOs. 3 out of 8 drug delivery companies which were IPO'd in the last 5 years targeted wet AMD. And the rest are aimed at large markets like dry eye, myopia, and postoperative pain. All 5 novel drug companies, on the other hand, targeted posterior segment. Most of them focus on gene therapy for rare disease indications. The situation is a little different with private financing. Starting from the far left again, the averages and aggregate round sizes with drug delivery companies are only a fraction of the size of novel drug financing. We do still see a steady growth in average pre-money valuations, even more in drug delivery than with novel drugs. Also anticipated is the fact that total aggregated finance amounts that goes into drug delivery are still small compared to novel drugs. 10 M&A deals were done during the last 5 years for drug delivery companies as compared to 14 for novel drugs. Not only there's not a lot to talk about in 2020 to date, though 2019 was a record year for drug delivery, both from a transaction value perspective and the total number of deals done. A few more details include the fact that mean total deal value for drug delivery companies was about 179 million, with an average of 60% upfront, while novel drug companies' mean total deal value was 875 million, with a mean of 81% upfront. Please note, those numbers are based on a limited amount of publicly available information and is highly influenced by gene therapy deals. Year to date, index stock price performance for drug delivery companies are doing better than novel drug companies, with a 45% increase over the course of 12 months. Versus 6% with novel drug companies. This is taking into consideration, again, only a limited number of pure play delivery companies, and thus may be skewed, but may also reflect a more conservative trend to lower risk associated with novel drug path to the market. So what are the challenges for drug delivery companies? There's a few facts we must recognize. First, small cap companies are under pressure to expedite arrival to the market in all therapeutic areas. This short to launch concept has also been effective for investors. As a result, there is a rationale to start as a spec pharma or a reformulation company, despite relatively low valuation as compared to novel drug companies. These are the trucks. Investors also show a strong preference for event-driven investments in new technologies and hot therapeutic areas like gene therapy. So the path for a first product often goes through reformulation. But what's next? How to transform the truck into a Porsche? Creation of value and not just reformulation. How do those portfolio selections highlight the drug delivery and not the API? How do we maximize the platform nature of the technology? There's a few ways to do that. One option is going at a second step after different fields outside ophthalmology, either with a known API, so another reformulation, or repurposing from a different medical field. This way, you are still positioned as a truck regardless. Another option is to focus solely on ophthalmology, where a next phase would be repurposing and not reformulating a known API outside ophthalmology. That would offer a lower risk path, a systemic safety is usually substantiated, a final path towards innovative status is going after a novel API. This is a high risk, high reward route, positioning the company as an innovative biotech company. Or in other words, turning the truck into the Porsche. We have seen this trend with companies like Kodiak and Graybug. So the big $1 million question is, what will you be? How will you grow up? As a truck or as a Porsche? And both options are valid ways of growing up. Some questions to think about during the presentations that we will hear today will be, what are the main challenges regarding portfolio selection and how company positions is influenced by them? How do those companies approach that? And in portfolio selection, how do you maintain a drug delivery company profile without having API still the limelight? I want to thank Piper Sandler for their work on the financial analysis, my fellow presenters and panel discussion partners, and last but most importantly, the OIS team for giving us the opportunity to discuss innovation at large and shining the light on drug delivery as the next big thing in ophthalmology. With that said, I will give the floor to the first presenter. First to present is Ivensis. Last month, Ivensis was granted an orphan disease designation for one of its compounds for the treatment of retinitis pigmentosa. On behalf of Ivensis, Francine Bahar-Cohen, the founder and chief innovation officer, is going to present.
So good evening, I am Francine Bahar-Cohen. I am an ophthalmologist and I'm the founder of Ivensis. Ivensis is a clinical stage company. It is developing a new innovative platform delivery system for any therapeutic protein to be delivered in the eye. So Ivensis is a clinical stage non-viral gene therapy company that targets ocular disease. It's an innovative strategy that allows the sustained expression of any therapeutic proteins inside the eye using a minimally invasive procedure. The proof of concept of our technology has been demonstrated in an ongoing phase 1-2 trial in the United States as well as in Europe. And now we are accelerating 2 projects for 2 different types of patients and 2 new proteins. What is Ivensis? Ivensis is a technology that is made of 3 components. A plasmid DNA with a proprietary plasmid backbone, and allows to incorporate any gene encoding any therapeutic proteins without limiting size. And we can also insert even 2, 3, or 4 proteins, genes at least. The second component is a device. So it is applied on the eye surface under topical anesthesia. And the third component is a generator. This intends to incorporate inside the ciliary muscle cells a plasmid encoding a protein, and once it is incorporating using electroporation, the ciliary muscle becomes a biofactory that secretes any therapeutic protein inside the vitreous, as well as in the tissue of the posterior segment of the eye. The proof of concept of this technology has been shown using different proteins in different animal models in preclinical studies. In humans, I606 delivered a soluble receptor for TNF in patients that were end-stage uveitic patients that were legally blind, actually. 16 patients have been enrolled, and there were 3 cohorts of patients with escalating doses. This intended to show the feasibility as well as the safety of the procedure. And it showed that it is feasible under topical anesthesia within a few minutes. But interestingly, in the 3rd cohort that had the highest dose of plasmid, we could see in 2 of the 3 patients interesting biological signals of efficacy. As you see, this patient with retinal vasculitis gained 12 letters, and this was associated with a reduction in his macular edema. The patient here with a Burchard retinopathy also had a gain of vision associated with reduction of his macular thickness, but the study was lasting 6 months. And as you can see, after 2 additional months, there was still a reduction in macular edema. And this witnesses that there is still protein expressed in the eye up to 9 months after a single treatment. Indeed, this strategy is intending to deliver and to produce protein for about 6 to 9 months, but not continuously, so that there is an exit strategy and the patient is going to be retreated and followed up. Now we are developing 2 new treatments for 2 types of patients. The first one is I809. It's a dual gene plasmid containing the genes of 2 proteins. One is aflibercept and the other one is decorin. Is it intending to treat patients that have persistent fluid after optimal treatment with anti-VEGF? Indeed, not all the patients respond to anti-VEGF because VEGF is not the only factor involved in wet AMD. So this will be additive or alternative therapeutic approach to VEGF inhibition. Why? Because decorin have strong anti-angiogenic effect independent from VEGF, but also anti-inflammatory and anti-fibrotic effects. So we intend to increase the percentage of responders with wet AMD and provide anatomic benefit of a reduction of leakage induced by anti-VEGF. We showed that Ivensis technology was superior to reduced leakage in animal model of CNV as compared to injection of aflibercept. The second strategy that is developed now by Advances is intending to treat patients with retinitis pigmentosa, whatever is their gene defect or mutation. Indeed, it was shown that iron accumulates in the retina of patients with any retinal degeneration, and this iron is inducing a strong oxidative damage that kills photoreceptor cells. And we are producing now, with the Advances technology, transferrin. Human transferrin is the natural iron chelator. Not only is it chelating iron, but it is having additional neuroprotectant effects on patients with retinitis pigmentosa. It has been shown to be effective in animal model and safe to slow photoreceptor degeneration and loss in various animal models, including animal model of retinal degeneration. But it could also be applied for patients with dry AMD as well as glaucoma. We showed in the rabbit that we are able to produce after a single treatment efficient levels of transferrin in the aqueous in the vitreous and the retina and choroid for a period of at least 6 months. In the pipeline, we have 606 ongoing on patients with escalating dose. We have 611 using transferrin for neuroprotection, first retinitis pigmentosa, but other indications, and I-809 with patients with wet AMD. The company is managed by Patricia Ziliox, which is the CEO and president, Ronald Begage, who is the CMO, Thierry Bordet, the CSO, Gina Pinto, who is the finance and administration, Alan Versky for device, and Helen Mortimer for clinical operation, as well as our board of directors and our investors. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Francine. Next is iPoint. The two products in the market for iPoint are DEXYCU for postoperative inflammation and YUTIQ for chronic non-infectious uveitis. They represent a constantly innovating drug delivery company. On behalf of iPoint, I want to present Nancy Lurker, the president and CEO.
Hi, I'm Nancy Lurker. I'm the CEO of iPoint Pharmaceuticals. We're an ophthalmology-focused drug delivery company, and I'll be speaking with you today about our Durasert technology, which has been well proven in 4 FDA-approved products, and we have a very exciting pipeline using that technology as well. I'm happy to present iPoint, and a couple of quick comments. We are a publicly traded company, so this is our forward-looking statement. You can access it on our website. As I mentioned, we are an ocular disease-focused company with a very well-validated technology. We call it Durasert, and I'll be speaking about that today. It shows a sustained release technology that is zero-order kinetics, and that's very important as we look at treating some of these eye diseases. We have 2 drugs on the market today, YUTIQ and DEXYCU. YUTIQ uses our Durasert technology. DEXYCU uses our proven Verisome technology, but today I'll be talking about Durasert. And then our pipeline, we have our very exciting EYP-1901, which is our potential 6-month sustained release anti-VEGF treatment for wet AMD using our validated Durasert technology. Now, turning to our pipeline, we have 2 products on the market today, DEXYCU, which we are focused on cataract surgery that uses our proven Verisome technology, but that technology is more focused on anterior drug delivery, and it's a suspension. And then we have YUTIQ, which is our Durasert technology, and that is indicated for 3 years for the treatment for chronic non-infectious uveitis. Again, I'll be speaking a little bit more about this because it is a highly important disease that we're treating over a 3-year time frame. We also are in the clinic with our YUTIQ 5.0, which is our 6-month short duration treatment for chronic non-infectious uveitis, again, using our Durasert technology. And really importantly is our EYP-1901, which is our 6-month anti-VEGF treatment for wet AMD using our bioerodible Durasert technology. Of note is that we have numerous companies approaching us, and more than ever now, asking if we can take their small molecule and put it in our Durasert technology. We've got a number of collaborations we've already started. And again, we do partner with people to develop their drugs in our bioerodible Durasert technology. So this is our Duracert delivery technologies I mentioned to you. You can see off to the right-hand side, that's the actual size on a finger. And you can see it's very, very small. It's a beautiful design. It provides sustained delivery of small molecules to the back of the eye. And we can extend this from months to years. We now have it bioerodible. And the nice thing is it can be administered in the physician's office. As I mentioned, most importantly, we have 4 FDA-approved drugs with tens of thousands of patients now having this technology in their eye, and we've got a very, very positive safety track record over the years now. So we're very confident in the ability of this drug delivery to provide safe and efficacious delivery of small molecules. And of course, I mentioned in the pipeline is our EYP-1901, our YUTIQ 50, and then we have numerous partner programs as well. So here's the actual drug delivery. You can see this is using the YUTIQ design, which is non-erodible. That's a polyamide tube. PVA is mixed with the API inside. We have a drug-eluting core. And as you can see, this is actually an insertion into a color fundus photo right after insertion of YUTIQ. And you can see it sitting there in the eye, but it does not hardly ever, if ever, bother the patient's vision. It tends to float down below the field of vision and just sits there eluting out over 3 years. This particular patient had their vision improved to 20/40 after being treated 11 times with short-acting intravitreal steroids. And here's another OCT examination of a patient 2 months after YUTIQ injection. And even for those non-physicians in the audience, I think you can tell the difference between what looks like a healthy eye after treatment and certainly what looks like an unhealthy eye before treatment. And again, you can see very nice resolution. This patient wanted to become pregnant and they'd been treated with immunotherapy, which, as you know, is contraindicated for pregnancy. And she's doing very well on YUTIQ. This is our beautiful Kaplan-Meier curve. This actually shows YUTIQ over 3 years. You can see the nice differentiation between standard of care over a 3-year time period in the incidence of recurrent uveitic flares. And that's what causes these patients to go blind. And you can see again that we consistently suppress those flares. And once you get out to 3 years, you see those flares pop right up to standard of care, and that's because the implant is depleted. So again, we're very, very nice effect that you get with using Duracert and YUTIQ. Now turning importantly to our 1901 product candidate, this particular drug we're very excited about. It's for wet AMD, and we all know that treating wet AMD over a longer period of time is crucial. And the reason is because of this curve, which is a retrospective observational study, which just recently was published in the British Journal of Ophthalmology, showing that even with patients that are treated with anti-VEGF therapy in real world, they just keep losing their eyesight. And why is that? Because nobody wants to go in and can go in consistently every month or every 2 months and get their eye injected. So it's really important that we try to come up with fewer injections that maintain therapy over a longer period of time. Now, what we're excited about is vorolanib. It is an anti-VEGF. It blocks at the receptor. It's got a broad effect. It's a tyrosine kinase inhibitor. You can see the biochemical selectivity on the VEGF-R2 receptor, very, very similar to sunitinib, very nice suppression or IC50 at that receptor site. And you can see using vorolanib orally in this phase 1 study, we had very nice results delivered orally. As you find with these TKIs, of course, it had some systemic side effects, and that's why we're now developing a Duracert for delivery into the intravitreous. And here we show the PK curve, and this is the nice thing about Duracert. You're getting a beautiful zero-order release over 180 days using vorolanib in Duracert, and we call that EYP-1901. We're quite excited about where we are with this. We're on track to deliver our IND to the FDA by the end of this year, and hopefully we'll be able to dose our first patient the first part of first quarter. So again, we're ocular disease focused. We've got a very compelling pipeline, especially with EYP-1901. 2 products on the market using our drug delivery technology, and Duracert is really the gold standard now in delivering validated technology to the back of the eye in a safe and efficacious way. So again, thank you for your time. We feel that we've got a very compelling value proposition, and most importantly, what we're able to deliver to patients to help with their serious eye diseases. And a big shout out and a thank you to OIS for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And next one up is Retina Therapeutics, which is developing a photo cross-linking drug-eluting polymers with the aim of eliminating topical drug delivery. Michael O'Rourke, the CEO, will present Retina.
Hello, my name is Michael O'Rourke. I'm CEO of Retina Therapeutics, based in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and in Tampa, Florida. I've been in ocular drug delivery since 1995. I'd like to thank the OIS for the opportunity to present to you today. Thank you.
Retina Therapeutics is a sustained release ocular therapeutics company with a primary focus on biologic and small molecule drug delivery. We're a technology spin-out from Queen's University, Belfast, Northern Ireland. Queen's is now the #1 UK university for taking spin-outs to the commercialization stage. And recently, Retina was voted in the top 10 most innovative companies in Northern Ireland. So moving across with two key technologies, biodegradable photocross-linked technologies. One is called iLeaf, which is a preformed implant. Second is Oculeaf, which is an in-situ implant-forming gel. And really since 2016, we've built up a robust IP portfolio behind these technologies. So our strategy is really twofold. One is the internal development of these technologies with therapeutics. We've been working extensively on proof of concept over the past 4 years. And we're really now finalizing product design to enable, I think, 3 major opportunities to be developed. One is iLeaf with a 4 to 6 month sustained release capability of an anti-VEGF drug. Second would be Oculeaf with a 9 to 12 month capability. But also working with iLeaf for a 6-month sustained release system with a small molecule therapeutic. In addition, we're also open to looking at external strategic collaborations, working with novel therapeutics requiring a drug delivery technology. We recently raised about 3.25 million as part of a pre-Series A round just a couple of months ago, led by Excite Ventures, Infocus Capital, and Visionary Ventures. And really the first time that all 3 ophthalmic VCs had invested into the same company. We will be planning a Series A in 2021. For non-dilutive capital, we have some large molecule feasibility studies underway, and we were also recently granted an Innovate UK grant to look at a sustained release biologic. So why do we need sustained release biologics? So really, if you look at the left-hand side with Vitracert, which I was involved with, launching with Chiron in 1995, then later led the Reticert launch in the US with Bausch & Lomb. Of course, there's been additional technologies since then, but these have all been with small molecule therapeutics. With the introduction of the anti-VEGF products in 2006, of course, these have dramatically changed the market, but frequent injections are still required to deliver these drugs. So this is really where Retina comes into play with either iLeaf or Oculeaf or both to really enable the sustained delivery of biologics. So with iLeaf, if we look at it, it is a prefabricated, preloaded photocross-linked system. It's a conventional office-based delivery. iLeaf is really for potent drugs that require lower release rates of between 1 to 3 micrograms a day. It can fit into a wide variety of locations within the eye, and we can customize the technology depending on the drug release profile required. With Oculeaf, it's a gel-based system, photocross-linked in situ. We're working on a novel applicator device with a built-in UV source, again for office-based delivery, really for less potent drugs that require higher release rates of greater than 3 micrograms a day. It's a gel, so when it's injected into an aqueous environment, like the vitreous, it forms an implant, and to date, there's been no evidence of any snow globe effects. And similar to iLeaf, it can be customized for a wide variety of drug release profiles. So in terms of how iLeaf works, so it's a multiple polymer system. The drug is embedded into the polymer. Photocross-linking then occurs, and a matrix is then formed. And really through a process of diffusion and erosion, the drug is then released to the back of the eye, and biodegradability then occurs. So to date, we've achieved greater than 50% drug loading with drugs like bevacizumab. We've also filed for IP on this. And as well as both large and small molecules, iLeaf in particular is suitable for both hydrophilic and hydrophobic drugs. Our degree of cross-linking really controls water movement within the matrix, thereby maintaining the stability of the active drug. So this is iLeaf, where we're advancing biologic drug delivery. So it works extensively with drugs like bevacizumab and albumin, who have delivered now in vitro for greater than 6 months. And we've also demonstrated bioactivity of greater than 80% for both these products. Our fabrication procedure avoids extreme pH conditions, elevated temperatures. We don't use organic solvents. It could reduce the stability risk for biologics. We're not seeing the typical denaturing that could occur. Similarly, we've seen uniform degradation of the implants in both our in vitro and in vivo studies without any fragmentation. For Oculeaf, working with variable small injectable volumes, we've already delivered for greater than 1 year with a 20 microliter volume, again with a biologic. For small molecule delivery, we've worked with drugs like latanoprost, we've worked with another hydrophilic drug, we've worked with dexamethasone. We've already achieved greater than 40% by weight of latanoprost, and we've achieved sustained release for over 180 days. We've developed a coating method that really eliminates the burst effect of small molecules and so can enable zero order release. Similar to iLeaf and Oculeaf with biologics, we can tailor release profiles. And our implants have showed minimal swelling over the 6-month delivery period. And in the tolerability and PK study, we showed successful results in the intercameral space of the New Zealand white rabbit. So we've got a strong team together. This is just our scientific advisory board here, some leading retina physicians at the top, with Bob Avery, Michael Nissen, Firas Rahal, and Barry Cooperman. And with industry experts, including David Geyer, who's ex-CEO of Optotec, Brian Levy, who's ex-CMO of Bosch and Longmaneri, our acting chief scientific officer is Clive Wilson, with over 20 years drug delivery experience, consulting for companies like Allergan, and our polymer expert, co-founder, David Jones in Northern Ireland. Really put a really strong team together. So in summary, strong team, large established markets. We believe that drug delivery really does make great drugs better. So our sustained release platforms can deliver biologics and small molecules, hydrophilic and hydrophobic drugs. We have novel technology, highly differentiated, a robust IP estate, and we believe we also offer major competitive advantages with greater than 50% drug loading, delivery up to 12 months, proven tolerability, and the ability to customize the delivery of therapeutics. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much. This is a picture of Queen's University in Belfast. Once the COVID restrictions are out of the way, if you're ever in Belfast, please come and visit. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Michael. Next one up is Graybug Vision with Fred Gerard as their CEO. I want to congratulate Graybug on the recent IPO in late September. Fred, take it away.
I'm Fred Gerard. I'm the CEO of Graybug Vision. Thank you very much for IS to invite Graybug today to present our progress in drug delivery. You will find here our forward-looking statements, and in a nutshell, Graybug works on long-acting treatments for vision-threatening diseases. We have a number of candidates, and as you can see here, one is clinical stage, GB102, our lead asset, a pan-VEGF inhibitor for the treatment of wet AMD, which we intend also to develop in DME. We have the same molecule in a once-a-year formulation that we intend to develop for diabetic retinopathy called GB103, as well as a proprietary prodrug beta blocker called GB401, which we intend to develop for every 6-month injection in primary open-angle glaucoma. Our technologies are well protected to 2039 for retina and 2041 for glaucoma. And we have a number of milestones. The next one is the readout of an ongoing phase 2b study, which will read out in the first half of 2021. And we plan to initiate 4 new clinical trials in the second half of next year. On slide number 4, this is how our proprietary technologies present. We inject in the eyes a suspension of microparticles with a small gauge needle, and in contact with the vitreous, these microparticles come together, aggregate, and form a depot from which a drug will be released over a period of time. These depot itself, these polymers, hydrolyze over time and disappear from the eye without leaving any presence of byproducts. We work on differentiating mechanism of action. On one hand, we have a pan-VEGF inhibitor in retina. We have a proprietary prodrug in glaucoma. We can tune the durability of these polymers from a few weeks to a year, as well as control the drug elution from these polymers in a very good way. On the hand, now have some photographic evidence of what we can do to present to you. Our technologies are versatile. We can actually use them for a number of molecules. And of course, we design everything we do with safety in mind. And here you can see our pipeline on slide number 5. So I'll start with the retinal program. So first, a quick introduction of sunitinib. Sunitinib is a good candidate for a pan-VEGF inhibition. As you know, traditionally existing products block circulating VEGF-A from binding to receptors 1 and 2. We decided to go with a different approach, with a small molecule approach, blocking all VEGF receptors. And when these receptors are blocked, basically it will antagonize the effect of VEGF-A, B, C, and D, which, as other companies have demonstrated, actually might provide some additional benefit to the blockade of VEGF-A only. Incidentally, sunitinib is a potent neuroprotectant. It's a dual leucine zipper kinase inhibitor that has demonstrated preclinically some interesting efficacy in neuroprotection. We conducted a first-in-human study called Adagio. It was a safety study looking at 4 different doses of GB102 administered to patients that had received previously at least 3 injections of anti-VEGF, short-acting anti-VEGF, and these patients were given either a dose of 0.25, 0.5, 1 or 2 milligram of GB102, only 1 dose, and were monitored for 8 months. Basically, these patients did well. We achieved the primary endpoint of safety or tolerability. As you can see here, we had no SAE, no ocular SAE or dose-limiting toxicity, and most patients did well in that study. The most common adverse event was actually presence of microparticles in the anterior chamber. As you can see here, this one single injection of GB102 was able to control retinal thickness and visual acuity in these patients, and actually 7 out of 8 patients did not require any other supportive therapy in the first 6 months of the study. Actually, 4 out of 8 of them going to 8 months or beyond without any additional anti-VEGF. Because of this presence of particles in the anterior chamber, we decided to further optimize the manufacturing process of these microparticles, and we conducted a small open-label safety study in macular edema patients with the same type of patient population, different disease, but these patients were also pre-treated with at least 3 injections of short-acting anti-VEGF, got 1 injection of GB102, and were monitored monthly for 6 months. And we tried 2 different doses, 1 and 2 milligrams of GB102. This is how this enhanced formulation presents, and it's injected after a reconstitution in the eye over 5 seconds at a 6 o'clock position, as you can see here in a glass eye model. And as you can see, these microparticles get out of the needle and start aggregating immediately when they get in contact to the vitreous. And this is how these particles look like in the eye. At baseline, you can see for the first time, we have these fantastic pictures in human eyes. You can see at baseline, the depot forms immediately, and then the depot stays in the eye, collapses on itself all the way to 6 months, which is the bottom right picture, where you can see a little bit of polymer left, bright orange, still at 6 months, demonstrated that some sunitinib is still left in the polymer at that time. The GB102 1 milligram was well tolerated. We still observed some presence of medication in the anterior chamber with the 2 milligram, which was not as optimized as the 1 milligram, and we decided to stop that dose. But overall, the 1 milligram was well tolerated and controlled the vision and retinal anatomy of these patients. We are conducting currently the larger phase 2B in wet AMD called Altissimo. This is a double-masked randomized study comparing GB102 to Eylea, given bi-monthly. And you can see here, we had originally 2 arms of GB102, a 1 milligram and 2 milligram arm. The patients that were in the 2 milligram arm were re-injected at 6 months with GB102 1 milligram, and we expect the results of that study in the first half of 2021. Just a few words on our glaucoma program. Our glaucoma program, as I said before, is an inactive prodrug embedded in the same type of polymer as GB102. This prodrug gets activated when released, and you can see on the right-hand side the quality of the pharmacokinetics we get from that formulation. A proof of concept has been done in ocular hypertensive rats, demonstrated that the approach of injecting GB401 IVT could result in an IOP reduction similar to timoral eye drops. And you can see on the right-hand side, we looked at target tissue concentration over 6 months, which regardless of the dose was quite stable over 6 months. At no time point was the active beta blocker detected in the plasma. And we expect to start a first in human study in the second half of next year for this formulation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred. Next one up is Layer Bio, an early stage company that is already developing drug delivery technologies for multiple applications, post-operative inflammation, glaucoma, and wound healing. Presenting Layer Bio will be Ken Mandel, the CEO of the company.
Hi, I'm Ken Mandel, founder and CEO of Layer Bio, and today I'm pleased to present to you the Ocuring K sustained release implant for cataract surgery. Layer Bio is a clinical stage MIT spinout developing novel therapies for unmet needs in ophthalmology. To date, Layer Bio has raised $8 million in non-dilutive capital, which includes a recent $3 million award from the Department of Defense. Layer Bio has a novel drug delivery technology with multiple applications in the field of cataract surgery. We're currently seeking partners and investors to advance our lead product through clinical development. Cataract surgery is a large and steadily growing market. More than 4 million cataract surgeries will be performed in the US this year, and that number is expected to reach nearly 6 million by 2030. The prescription eye drop market for cataract surgery is estimated to be around $1.2 billion, and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs represent approximately $500 million of that market. We believe the largest unmet need for drug delivery in cataract surgery is to improve the safety and efficacy of ocular NSAIDs. NSAID eye drops are very effective at reducing postoperative inflammation and pain, and evidence shows that NSAIDs reduce the risk of postoperative cystoid macular edema, particularly in high-risk patients such as diabetics. But NSAIDs have drawbacks. Topical NSAIDs carry a class label with warnings and precautions involving the ocular surface. This includes the risks of delayed healing and corneal degeneration, and in extreme cases, perforation. Precaution is recommended in patients with diabetes, dry eye, and rheumatologic diseases, which collectively represents more than 30% of the US population. And then there are the general limitations of all eye drops, which include lack of patient compliance and limited penetration to the target tissue. If ever there were a drug class in need of better delivery technology, it is ocular NSAIDs. That's why Layer Bio developed the Ocuring K, a small bioerodible ring that attaches to any standard IOL and releases ketorolac during the postoperative period. By delivering drug directly inside the eye, it eliminates the risks of topical NSAIDs, guarantees compliance, and improves patient satisfaction. Layer Bio recently completed a phase 1 open label study demonstrating the preliminary safety and efficacy of Ocuring K in patients undergoing cataract surgery. Here you see a representative surgical video demonstrating the ease of insertion of Ocuring K by the cataract surgeon. Note, the Ocuring is positioned on the IOL and loaded into the cartridge in the usual manner. The IOL is then advanced to the tip of the injector and prepared for insertion into the eye using standard surgical technique. Once inside the eye, the IOL is inserted through the pupil into the capsular bag where it unfolds, and the surgeon then centers the lens within the visual axis. All of the surgeries in our study were performed in the same manner without complication. After surgery, the eyes look pristine. All the eyelids dilated fully and symmetrically. The media was clear with a normal red reflex. The ocuring remained in its proper position on the lens, and the lens was centered without tilt. This is an ideal outcome. Note that no postoperative steroids were prescribed in our study, just the ocuring alone. Minimal inflammation was observed at postoperative days 1 and 7 and cleared by day 28, and all patients were pain-free at all postoperative visits. Although this was an open-label study and there was no comparator, the lack of need for a steroid is highly supportive of the efficacy of Ocuring K. Ocuring K represents a novel approach to postoperative inflammation for cataract surgery. It overcomes the risks and limitations of topical NSAIDs, and in doing so has the potential to significantly expand the NSAID market. Layer Bio has a highly experienced leadership team that includes my co-founders from MIT. And we have a world-class advisory board consisting of some of the top cataract surgeons and commercial experts in the field of ophthalmology. Layer Bio has a robust patent portfolio with coverage through 2039. In summary, Ocuring K is an innovative technology with a relatively low development risk and high revenue potential. I welcome discussions with partners and investors interested in advancing Ocuring K through clinical development. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to contact me.
Thank you, Ken. Polyactiva is an Australian-based company which develops products both within the eye for endophthalmitis and glaucoma, as well as intra-articular anti-inflammatory delivery system for osteoarthritis. On behalf of Polyactiva, I would like to invite Russell Tate, their CEO, to give that presentation.
Hi, I'm Russell Tate, CEO and founder of Polyactiva, speaking to you from halfway around the world in Melbourne, Australia. This is our first presentation at OAS, and it is a pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce you to our company. We have a truly unique drug delivery technology that we've used to develop ocular implants that substitute for existing drop therapy. Our first two assets are in glaucoma and post-surgical care. With the recent demonstration of our technology is safe in human eyes, we're now looking to expand our product pipeline. I'm excited and hope you enjoy the presentation. Polyactiva is a privately held clinical stage ophthalmology company based in Melbourne, Australia. We have two assets in clinical development, an ocular implant for the treatment of glaucoma and an ocular implant to provide antibiotic prophylaxis following cataract surgery. Both implants deliver known drugs, so can be registered through a 505(b)(2) regulatory path. We own each asset outright, and they are protected by patents with composition of matter claims. We have an outstanding clinical advisory panel that oversees each of our clinical programs. We use a common delivery technology that provides separate control over drug release and implant biodegradation to ensure each product is tailored for its market application. We have single agent clinical assets in each of the glaucoma and post-surgical markets and are seeking to extend our pipeline in each of those markets with multiple agent implants. We are targeting a 6-month treatment period in the glaucoma segment and to substitute existing standard of care drop therapy with a single implant in the post-surgical segment. We also intend to expand our portfolio to include back of the eye assets to treat conditions such as wet AMD and DME. Polyactiva has developed a truly unique and differentiated drug delivery technology. The technology does not involve blending of drug through PLGA or any other polymer matrix. Rather, it involves use of polymeric prodrugs, where a drug substance is chemically linked to a polymer backbone, and the chemistry of that linkage used to control drug release. The implant is produced by first synthesizing a drug-incorporating monomer, which is then combined with comonomers to build a custom polymeric prodrug. This in turn is transformed into an implant suitable for syringe administration. For front of the eye application, the implant is administered in the ophthalmologist's office to the inferior angle of the anterior chamber by clear corneal injection. Immediately after administration, the implant takes up water from surrounding tissue to trigger drug release. A constant daily dose of drug is then delivered for the desired treatment period. A cross-linked polymer network ensures implant integrity during the release period, after which the implant biodegrades and leaves no residue. The technology is tunable. Exquisite zero water release is achieved over the treatment period which can be as short as 1 week or as long as 2 years. We can control the rate of biodegradation, but also when it starts. With our implant, the biodegradation process kicks in at about 26 weeks after administration and is complete 6 weeks after it starts. There is no residue and the degradation byproducts are non-toxic. More than 90% of existing drugs can be delivered with our technology. Provided the drug can be produced synthetically, we can deliver it. We've used our technology to build a glaucoma implant that releases latanoprost-free acid, the active agent of latanoprost. We built 2 forms of the implant from a common chemistry platform. The 2 forms have different biodegradation profiles to ensure we achieve the target 6-month treatment period. We studied both forms of the implant in a validated animal model and assessed them weekly. Both implants were found to be safe and well tolerated. In both cases, an IOP lowering effect equivalent to xalotane drops was observed during the treatment period. In dogs, one form of the implant was found to biodegrade at about 20 weeks and the other at about 30 weeks. We expected the 20-week implant would probably translate to a 30-week implant in human subjects, so selected this for initial clinical development. We then progressed with a phase 1 first-in-man clinical safety study conducted here in Australia. The study found the implant to be well tolerated in the subjects recruited. The biodegradation period was confirmed to be between 24 to 36 weeks across the population, and importantly, there was no sign of any implant movement. While the study was not designed to show efficacy, we did see evidence of an IOP lowering effect. Topical PG analog therapy was ceased when the implant was dosed and not reinstated until IOP returned to a normal clinical care range, as illustrated by the plot shown to the right of this slide. We've now taken the same implant into a phase 2A dose ranging study. We are studying 3 doses in a single ascending design and will recruit up to 10 patients per dose cohort. The primary efficacy endpoint is mean diurnal IOP at 12 weeks compared to baseline IOP, but we'll also study the mean diurnal IOP at 26 weeks. We hope to report interim findings for this study early to middle of next year. Our second clinical asset is an ocular implant to substitute for peri and postoperative antibiotic therapy following cataract surgery. The implant delivers levofloxacin, a fluoroquinolone antibiotic. Levofloxacin is delivered with a biphasic release profile. First, a bolus dose is released within 15 minutes of administration. This substitutes for the bolus dose of fluoroquinolone typically administered by surgeons during cataract surgery. The bolus dose is then followed by release of a constant daily dose of levofloxacin for about 5 to 7 days. This substitutes for topical antibiotic therapy after cataract surgery. We've initiated a first-in-man clinical safety study with this product and again hope to report interim findings for this study early to middle of next year. Now that we've moved our first 2 assets into the clinic, R&D resources have been freed up for new product development. We have directed those resources to development of new products and extension of existing. For example, we are developing a levofloxacin steroid combination implant that would be an obvious life cycle extension for the levofloxacin alone product. We also intend to extend our glaucoma franchise with additional single agent implants and a combination implant of 2 agents. Finally, we have started development of a back of the eye implant to treat wet AMD, DME and/or RVO. So, in conclusion and to recap, we have a unique and differentiated platform technology that allows us to separately tailor drug release and implant biodegradation to meet the needs of the intended application. The technology is applicable to a wide range of drugs used in ophthalmology. For each drug class we've studied, we've filed patents to protect the relevant asset with composition of matter claims. We have 2 assets in clinical development in 2 of the largest markets in ophthalmology. And finally, we're seeking to develop new products with our technology to create a pipeline of assets. I trust you enjoyed the presentation and thank you all for your interest.
Thank you, Russell. I want to present Talc, a Canadian preclinical stage ophthalmic company developing topical anti-inflammatory compounds for corneal, glaucoma, post-surgical pain, and retinal diseases. Damon Smith, the CEO of the company, will do the presentation for Talc.
Hello, I'm Dr. Damon Smith, CEO of Talc. a new ophthalmic medicines company using our novel anti-inflammatory analgesic drugs delivered by smart cell technology to treat medical conditions throughout the eye. Our lead indication is keratoconus, an orphan disease usually first seen in teenagers that causes a progressive thinning of the cornea. This then leads to weakness and the cornea starts to bulge, distorting vision. If untreated, this can lead to sight loss. There are really only two treatment options for keratoconus: corneal transplants with all the issues of transplanted human tissues, and cross-linking surgery, which chemically strengthens the cornea and can halt progression. Unfortunately, while effective, the surgery is extremely painful, which tends to limit the eligible population. Let's talk more about the importance of pain control, and in doing so, refer to the doctors and patients who know most about it. Here then is a quote from Marie-Claude Robert, a leading Canadian ophthalmologist, which I think speaks for itself. Patients we've contacted are equally clear, and it's obvious that fear of surgery is delaying early treatment. If we could treat the pain effectively, we believe that more people would have the procedure and earlier, and outcomes, both short and long term, will be better. Unfortunately, we can't do this well today, since oral opioids, quite apart from the addiction risk, are ineffective. Topical NSAIDs delay wound healing, increasing infection risk, and steroids don't act fast enough, though they can also delay healing and increase intraocular pressure. We should now talk about talc's solution to effective pain control for keratoconus surgery. That is our new drug, which we called TA-A001, or A001 for short. A001 stimulates human CB2 receptors, which are found throughout the body and extensively on immune cells, where they have an important role in controlling inflammation. They're also found in the CNS and generate analgesia when activated. A001 binds more tightly to human CB2 receptors than any other receptor found in the body, and we've shown it to be 10 times more effective than NSAIDs in pain control models, where it begins to work very quickly and to produce long-lasting effects from a single administration. In terms of mechanism, as we'll show in the following slides, A001 reduces levels of pro-inflammatory cytokines and adhesion molecules, and it stops immune cells from binding at the injury site. We deliver A001, our new anti-inflammatory analgesic, using our proprietary smart cell technology. These are 30 nanometer micelles, neutral micelles, which allow deep penetration within the cornea. They allow transcorneal penetration, so you can access the aqueous humor and the trabecular network, and to the iris as well, and we believe getting into the vitreous humor. Of course, topical administration to get to the back of the eye is a holy grail, but we believe that A001 delivered by smart cell has the opportunity through topical administration to get to the back of the eye and to treat retinal diseases. It's a proprietary and unique technology, and we have issued patents out to 2038. In this first slide, we show the effect of A001 in reducing pain after surgery in a mouse model of analgesia. You can see the analgesic response at the side and increasing doses of A001. The middle dose, around 3 to 4 milligrams a kilogram, or the EC50, is around 10-fold lower than that of an NSAID we also used in this model. So you can see from the ED50s, much lower ED50, much lower, smaller amounts of drug are needed to achieve analgesia in this model than an NSAID. If we move on to a model of postoperative pain in the eye, a corneal hyperalgesia surgery model. In this model, we added TA-A001 to the front of the eye after trauma, and we compared it to the classical CB2 agonist HU308. As you can see here, the lowest dose at around 0.25% is around 12 times more potent than the classic CB2 agonist HU308. So after topical administration, A001 effectively reduces pain score in the eye. Since a picture paints 1,000 words, here is a picture of a slide showing two sections of the cornea and the number of leukocytes or immune cells that bind in the presence or absence of A001. On the left-hand side, we see the number of leukocytes, immune cells, which have accumulated in the eye after trauma. And on the right, we see when A001 or A001 is added. As you can see, strikingly fewer numbers of leukocytes, far less immune cell binding, and enhanced CB2 agonism when we add A001 to that model. Let's talk about the product itself now, the product profile, the product value as perceived by others, and the product development and timelines that we have. We first put together a product profile for TA001, as you can see here in the bullet points. First of all, to stress that it has a unique novel mechanism of action, different from NSAIDs, different from corticosteroids, and different from the opioids that are currently used today. It's a novel mechanism CB2 analgesic. It's for topical instillation. We believe it will be given the day before surgery and then 3 days afterwards. And as we've shown, it has superior potency to NSAIDs, but key has no psychedelic or narcotic effects. We believe these anti-inflammatory responses induced by A001 can result in reduced scarring and corneal haze. And we've already shown that a single administration can give rapid and sustained effects. Most importantly, since it's a different mechanism of action from NSAIDs and corticosteroids, it has no effect on wound healing or on intraocular pressure. That can give improved pain management without those side effects, an improved patient experience, and therefore decreased anxiety and the ability to have earlier intervention for a wider population. Now, we showed this target product profile to a series of US practicing ophthalmologists, 7 to 28 years, up to 400 keratoconus patients seen. And they had a very consistent set of responses. They spoke about the problems that they're experiencing today, the unmet need. As you see on the left here, topical NSAIDs inhibit healing and I don't get pain control. They spoke about the ability to widen the population, the number of patients who would benefit from keratoconus surgery if they had this product available. We would offer it to more people. This would allow us to do more procedures. The improved patient experience, which is very important, and a reduced need for narcotics. But also very clear was that they felt that the product profile, the value of A001 was far greater than just keratoconus. Indeed, this ophthalmologist at the top mentioned that this could reduce the risk of dry eye following the surgery. And that's a general point that we're seeing coming out. 94% were extremely interested in using the product, but all of them, in fact, the 6% who said they were only moderately interested said that because they felt the indication was too narrow. So if you look at the statements in the box at the bottom here, of course, they would use it for their cross-linking patients, CXL standing for cross-linking, the chemical cross-linking. They would use it for all 10 of their next patients, but they stated it's a game changer for practices performing corneal surgeries, i.e. not just keratoconus surgeries, but surgeries outside that indication. So let's look at the wider opportunity. We believe if we can treat the unmet need of pain in keratoconus, we can access far more patients and earlier. We believe that's around a $0.8 billion opportunity for this product in North America. Looking to the wider population and the wider number of surgeries, the PRK and LASIK and cataract surgeries, well, that's around 8 million eyes, and we believe around a $2 billion opportunity for the product. We also believe that A001 will have value in chronic diseases. That's glaucoma, dry eye, as mentioned before, macular degeneration, and diabetic retinopathy, which represents around 60 million American eyes and an opportunity of around $3.1 to $3.5 billion. That's for A001 and our pipeline drug candidate TA002, which is a CB1, CB2 receptor agonist. Why do we believe we'll have value at the back of the eye? Well, CB2 receptors are found throughout the eye, both in the cornea, as we've explained, but also, as you see here, in the uvea, in the trabecular meshwork, controlling intraocular pressure perhaps, and in the retina, where inflammation is shown to be an issue with AMD and diabetic retinopathy. The ability to bind to CB2 receptors there and reduce inflammation, we believe, can have significant value for treatment of those diseases, perhaps without the need for intraocular injections. In terms of where we are, well, we're a preclinical company. We are seeking investment to help us get from where we are today through IND-enabling studies and into phase 1 human trials, where we'll look eventually into phase 2 for keratoconus surgery and for PRK. We also will use those funds to help further the development of A001 and the follow-on molecule A002 in retinal disease. In parallel, we're always looking for co-development and licensing partnerships with specialty ophthalmology companies, again, to help the speedy and directed development of this new molecule and new delivery system in the treatment of ocular diseases. I'd like to thank you for listening to our presentation here. And if you would like more information about talc, please look at our website or contact us on the link below. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Damon. Next one to present is Mark Blumenkrantz on behalf of Kedalion Therapeutics. This is a different slant on drug delivery. Mark is the co-founder and the new CEO of Kedalion, which is a clinical stage company that presents the AcuStream platform.
Thank you, Sharon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Blumenkrantz, and I'm the chairman and CEO of Kedalion Therapeutics. Very glad to be with you today and to tell you about our company and some exciting new developments to share. Kedalion's a clinical stage ophthalmic drug company addressing the largest front of the eye markets with our internal drug pipeline and a disruptive topical delivery platform. Eye drops have been around for hundreds of years, but the problem is there's really been no significant innovation for at least the last 50 years. We know that 90% of patients dose improperly from peer-reviewed studies. Up to 24% of eye drop bottles, even those with preservatives, are contaminated. Up to 30% of patients who think they have good technique miss the eye under observational studies, and up to 50% of patients stop using eye drops within 1 year of starting. We believe that Kedalion's AcuStream provides a terrific solution for many of these issues. It's a novel multi-dose preservative-free horizontal delivery system applicable to a wide variety of different topical pharmaceuticals in different indications. We believe that we have a compelling value proposition that is supported by 8 key features. This allows for significant differentiation from all existing means of delivering ophthalmic pharmaceuticals, and we believe has the potential to disrupt the topical ophthalmic markets in the future. Some of these features include multi-dose preservative-free capability, highly effective microdosing providing less than 20% of the volume of a normal eye drop, very precise proprietary aiming technology, a superior comfort, ergonomics, and ease of use profile for patients, Bluetooth-enabled smart connected technology, the capability for extended delivery of up to 60 or even 90 days with a single device, consistency across multiple different viscosities and other solutions, including suspensions, and importantly, very low cost of goods, creating a very promising commercial model. Let me tell you a little more about why we think multi-dose preservative-free delivery and what we also term microbe-free delivery is so important. Multi-dose preservative-free delivery improves patient outcomes and reduced preservative-related side effects. It commands a pricing premium in the market and the opportunity for partnership opportunities. We designed the system with this in mind, and following that, subjected it to aggressive challenge in multiple different independent laboratories with up to 2 weeks of testing in the face of microbial challenge. We measured residual preservative-free drug in the device and fluid, including microbiologic cultures. And we found that AcuStream showed no bacteria in the drug reservoir and comparable or superior topical performance compared with traditional preserved dropper bottle delivery. We believe that smart features are another important component of this system. Kedalion mobile connectivity provides for new capabilities. For patients, including dose tracking reminders and compliance metrics, as you see here on the right, for caregivers and physicians, it allows the potential for remote compliance monitoring, patient interventions, and even potentially dose adjustment. From a research perspective, it has the capacity to facilitate adjustable dosing regimens and monitoring for clinical trials. And for manufacturers, the ability to capture data better, to track compliance, to look at dosing habits and utilization patterns, and other commercial considerations as well. We've been very active in clinical trial activity over the last several years. We've now treated more than 100 patients across 3 indications with 3 different drugs and our platform. This includes phase 1 studies in both mydriasis and glaucoma, and 3 separate trials in presbyopia, both phase 1 and phase 2. Now I'm going to show you some new data that has not been presented before publicly on the treatment of symptomatic presbyopia in a phase 2 prospective randomized masked clinical trial. We're very excited to share with you today the results of our recently completed prospective randomized double-masked clinical trial of symptomatic presbyopia. Our endpoint in this study was the number of patients achieving 3 lines or more of distance-corrected near visual acuity under mesopic conditions. We tested 4 different doses of drug and compared them with each other, as you can see here below, A through D, as well as with a placebo group. As you can see, we identified a dose that outperformed all the other doses as well as placebo, with 66.7% of patients achieving 3 lines of improvement. This was also true for patients under photopic conditions as well as the mesopic conditions, which I'm showing you here. In the slide, you can see that we had a highly statistically significant p-value of p less than 0.01. Our team is experienced with veterans from multiple different successful companies in the past, as are our board of directors, strategic advisors, and scientific advisory board. We're very excited to have kicked off our Series B fundraising. We're going to use these proceeds to meet several key milestones. These include the completion of a phase 3 program and submission of an NDA for our lead program in symptomatic presbyopia, and also to optimize our platform and include manufacturing scale-up for additional clinical trials in the future. We're currently raising $45 million of equity financing. So in summary, I'm very pleased to have had the opportunity to speak with you today about what we consider to be Kedalion's outstanding opportunity. We believe that we create value in 2 distinct ways, providing multiple shots on goal. Our principal value drivers are both an internal drug portfolio and also a highly innovative platform that provides for differentiation not only for our internal portfolio products, but also for potential strategic partners. On the internal side, we have a differentiated presbyopia candidate as our lead program. We are now planning to proceed with our phase 3 study, followed by NDA submission. And as well as that, we have programs developing in glaucoma and other indications to address unmet needs in a very large existing $17 billion topical drug market. On the platform side, we believe that microdosing allows for differentiation, and with our significant COGS reduction, life cycle management for a number of other drug products on the market today that face those challenges. We believe that our multi-dose preservative-free platform is the most advanced one available, with a highly differentiated host of other features to go along with that, including microdosing. And finally, our smart connected technology creates the opportunity for new solutions and better patient experiences and better outcomes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. And last, but definitely not least, is Sean Yanchulov, the CEO of Eyenovia, who will present the OptoJet, which enables microdosing for atropine for progressive pediatric myopia prevention, which is now in phase 3. Sean, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you for inviting me to present here at OIS. I think this is probably my 7th year, and it's been a great venue for ophthalmology and innovation. So thank you. My name is Sean Yanshulev, and I'm here at the Drug Delivery Showcase to tell you about Eyenovia and some of our programs and our innovation. So Eyenovia, as you can see the slides here, we started 4 or 5 years ago, really focusing on innovation for topical delivery of therapeutics to the eye. And we've developed a first-in-class technology and pharmaceutical programs, and we think it's one of the most robust late-stage pipelines in our field. First-in-class pharmaceutical programs, that includes our phase 3 development program in progressive myopia, where currently there is no FDA-approved treatment. Our phase 3 program, development program in presbyopia, which we're supposed to initiate in the next couple of months. And again, currently we don't have pharmacologic treatment for FDA-approved treatment for presbyopia. And these two are really exciting because they will really move the ball forward in those conditions of significant unmet need. We're using also, and we have developed a first-in-class ophthalmic delivery system with our first microdose delivery system for the eye to ever enter FDA studies, our first touchless horizontal delivery system for the eye in 100 years, and our first digital smart delivery system for the eye with 100% compliance monitoring. And again, these are many firsts in a field where we haven't seen much innovation beyond the conventional paradigm of the eyedropper that has been around for 100 years. So we have 3 pharmaceutical programs now under development utilizing this breakthrough development technology and this topical delivery platform, which we call OptiJet, with the microstat for pharmacologic mydriasis with our MIST-1 and MIST-2 phase 3 trials, with micropin for progressive myopia, with the Chaperone phase 3 trial, which we recently partnered with Bausch Health, as well as with Microline for presbyopia with our Vision 1 and Vision 2 phase 3 program, which we plan to initiate in the last quarter of this year. And as you can see here, we've really teed up a very strong pipeline in ophthalmology based on this delivery platform with microstat in pharmacologic mydriasis. We know 100 million people every year get pharmacologic mydriasis for diabetic retinopathy, for different conditions of the retina, for macular degeneration, and so forth, even for the comprehensive eye exam. And again, a very elegant microdose of a fixed combination phenylephrine tropicamide can dilate the pupil very effectively. And we've already read out the phase 3 studies of our program in microstat as positive, and we're preparing to submit the NDA. We also have Microline for presbyopia, and we're planning to initiate our phase 3 Vision 1 and Vision 2 studies. Again, presbyopia and the attrition of near vision function is something that we've seen as a major problem in the field of ophthalmology, with so many active adults experiencing that at the age of 40 or 50. And again, there is no currently approved pharmacologic treatment for that. We use the hardware with the eyeglasses, and we know that that can be at least not so disabling as much as inconveniencing for people, especially with active lifestyles. And I think more recently, there was some data from that that was announced by Allergan on the same pilocarpine compound that we have in our phase 3 program. So we're very excited to move forward in that therapeutic arena. And then our micropin program for progressive myopia. And this is a $5 billion market opportunity in the US, affecting almost 9 million young children. And again, I call that the epidemic behind the pandemic. Today, I think everybody is really tuned into the pandemic. But in fact, we've been having a global epidemic of progressive myopia, which has gotten into critical proportions. And there is no pharmacologic treatment that's been approved for that. We have great data coming from a collaborative studies showing that atropine in low doses can be really game-changing. And so we're moving forward, and we have now the Chaperone study, which is our phase 3 program, and it's ongoing. We've already randomized quite a few patients. It's really using that microdose delivery technology to treat progressive myopia so that we can slow down that disease. Again, Eyenovia has really been lucky to partner with some very, very strategic entities in the space of ophthalmology. We more recently announced in October, just a month ago, a partnership with Bausch Health on the micropin program, and that is for the US and Canada. I think we all understand that this is a major program. It's going to be of major significance, I think, up there to some of the other therapeutics that I've helped develop, such as Lucentis for macular degeneration. We think that Bausch partnership will be really critical in terms of getting that therapy to patients in the best possible way by us partnering with one of the most expert commercial players in ophthalmology. We also struck a partnership with Arctic Vision for microline and micropin for China and South Korea. Enormous markets for those conditions. And again, Arctic Vision being a very expert organization focused in those markets, and they add tremendous expertise for us and dramatically change the vector of our penetration globally through those partnerships in those markets. And then we have the longstanding partnership with Senju Pharmaceuticals, one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in Japan, and they realized the value of Eyenovia's technology early on and been a partner of ours. With them, we intend to be able to have the expertise for those markets, additional markets in Asia, as well as Japan. So we're very excited about those partnerships. With any new technology, it's critical for a small company to be able to rely on some of the most strategic players and get leverage, particularly in markets which are more specific and not really in our wheelhouse. So collectively, those opportunities, just the partnerships themselves, represent approximately 100 million of pre-commercial non-sales milestones. This is before we even go to the markets. And again, this is a game-changing number for a small company like Eyenovia. And on top of that, we have a platform technology, and these 3 programs just illustrate the very beginning of us addressing with that platform major indications and pretty much anything that has to do with topical delivery. Again, our microarray print technology is game-changing. We've shrunk the inkjet printer for the first time to be able to deliver therapeutics to the eye in a precise, accurate, safe way. And when I say that is, for example, we're very well aware that half of the time people delivering therapeutics with eyedropper, they miss the eye. And the time when they actually get the therapeutic in the eye, they're overdosing the eye because each eye drop from an eyedropper is about 30 to 40 microliters. And your eye and your entire ocular surface can only hold 7 microliters. So we're dramatically overdosing the ocular surface. And that leads not only to discomfort and pain, but that leads to ocular surface problems with the preservative, with the compound, that leads to hyperemia, as we've seen with over and over again. And again, major problems on the ocular surface and topically, as well as systemic problems. So we're very excited about this ability now to change the game for topical delivery and to be able to deliver something safer, as well as in a very easy to use way with our technology. And I want to show you a video here of the technology because it's really unique. It's very differentiated from the eyedropper. And you can see, for example, this is a micropin patient, a kid, and kids are notoriously difficult to give eye drops to. And it's a very simple delivery with almost like an inkjet microprint delivery, where it creates a directional mist and targets it to the eye, to the ocular surface, and more specifically to the cornea, because the cornea is where most of the bioavailability of any drug is, and the conjunctiva is where you get the complications and the hyperemia. So again, and I'll show it one more time, because everybody loves seeing this and how that works, but it literally prints just like we print ink on a pixelated picture with the inkjet printer. It prints these micro droplets, and the only thing you can feel, even without any anesthetic, is purely the mist, the wetness, without any pain. And those 7 microliters which we deliver, physiologic dosing to the eye, are really going where they need to go, directly to the cornea for ocular surface coating, and then for bioavailability and therapeutic effect. So we're really using that for the first time to inflect the therapeutic index of drugs. Also, the base, as you can see, is all electronic. It communicates with the smartphone technology, with the cloud, and we will have for the first time, the first digital system, digital health system to monitor compliance. Every delivery is recorded. And so when a patient comes to us, it will be like the Fitbit. It will be able to tell you when did they give their dose, what was their % compliance. And we've been talking about compliance in ophthalmology for almost 100 years. And for the first time, compliance will be baked into our system. So as you can see, we're solving major problems with the standard eye droppers, such as the drug and formulation preservatives of the eye and the overdosing. We also have much greater advantages potentially when we deliver the physiologic dosing with 7 microliters in terms of the ocular surface, as well as systemically. We also have a non-protruding tip. We call it touchless nozzle for touchless delivery. We know in the age of COVID today, it's very important how sanitary we are, and cross-contamination of eyedroppers for dilation, where they used sometimes as many as 40 patients in the course of the daily practice of ophthalmology and optometry is a big issue. And again, for this directional, touchless, horizontal spray delivery, I think we're going to see some really good advantages. As a clinician, I really see great benefits, particularly when it comes to today's day and age, when patients are so attuned to sterility. And you can see here on this picture is a delivery on the left eye, where the patient got actually one glaucoma medication, in this case, Repressa, with a standard eye drop, and on the right eye, a microdose of the same drop. And we had the same 7 millimeter drop in intraocular pressure in both eyes from baseline, yet you can see almost no hyperemia 1 hour later in the right eye with the microdose, and a significant hyperemia with the standard eyedropper dose. So again, as we've seen over and over again through many clinical studies, we have now 5 phase 2 and phase 3 clinical studies that we've completed. We're literally leading the way in that new horizon, where we can deliver drugs better, faster, smarter to the eye, eliminate waste, improve patient compliance, improve therapeutic effect, and literally change the game in ophthalmic delivery. And we've published those studies. We continue to produce great data. And in fact, one of our studies showed how not only do we impact with this highly specific physiologic dosing approach the ocular surface, but we actually reduce the levels of the drug in the systemic circulation. Again, there is a big difference when you deliver 40 microliters, of which 300, 200% overdose, and that ends up through the nasolacrimal drainage system, ends up directly into your circulation. And we know drugs like timolol have systemic effects. They reduce your heart rate, respiratory rate, they cause impotence. So eliminating systemic effects of those drugs is of utmost importance. So we're very excited about this technology. We're very excited that our MIST-1 and MIST-2 trials, which were the phase 3 studies for microstab, those trials were positive. We had great experience, and the patients love the technology, and we're preparing our NDA submission in the next couple of months. And we're really marching forward with what we consider one of the most robust pipelines in ophthalmology, beyond mydriasis, with microline for presbyopia, and again, micro-PIN, as we've already partnered with Bausch Health for progressive myopia. Brand new indications, pivoting drugs with great therapeutic potential into new indications where we can really, really change the unmet need and help patients with new therapeutic options. So with that, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to share with you our latest developments at Eyenovia. Again, maybe as a last treat, I would show you our device, the eyedropper, the new eyedropper, which I think will be the eyedropper of the 21st century, where we hopefully will transition from this that's been around for 100 years to a smart delivery technology with gentle application to the eye. Again, thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure to be at OIS again.
Thank you, Sean. So many thanks to all the presenters. You've done a fabulous job. And now for the panel discussion. So we are joined today by a representative of strategic pharma companies, Allergan, Santen, Genentech, and Erie Pharmaceuticals, all companies that spread their portfolio across multiple disease areas. And I will let my fellow panel partners to introduce themselves.
Josh Horvath, I'm with Genentech. I'm part of our device and packaging development group, trained as an engineer, and I've worked in developing medical devices for the past 15 years, most of that time in ophthalmology.
Great, and I'm Casey Kopczynski, Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder of Aerie Pharmaceuticals. My PhD is in molecular cell biology, postdoc in neurobiology. I've spent my entire career really doing target discovery and drug discovery within biotech, the last 15 years or so in ophthalmology.
Hi, Jim Cunningham. I lead the drug delivery sciences team at AbbVie, previously Allergan, based in Irvine, California, responsible for both formulation as well as combination product device development activities for delivery-enabled products. And across all therapeutic areas, all therapeutic modalities, but historically a lot of focus on eye care.
My name is Reza Haq. I'm at Santen. The group I'm leading is called Ophthalmic Innovation Center in Global R&D. I'm ophthalmologist by training, almost 25 years plus. I'm at the industry in different companies like Novartis for a long time. Then Shire, last one is a Shire, where I did the Xiidra approval. And last 2 years I had Santen.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Drug delivery technologies are often designed to improve pharmacological and therapeutic properties of already approved drugs. While drug delivery technologies offer a relatively obvious way of tackling high unmet needs, like treatment burden reduction or creating lifecycle management solutions for existing products, it's still not widely adopted as a distinct strategy with many pharma companies, but rather looked upon opportunistically. So for today's discussion, I divided the timelines into 4 topics. We are going to start with the first topic, which is talking about the hurdles. And the questions are referred to all of you, much like a presidential debate, but I hope in a more correct manner. So historically, pharmaceutical companies have been hesitant in either acquiring, developing, or investing in drug delivery technology. Why is that? Why do you think this is the case?
I think I can start there, and I'll take this from kind of the device and combination product perspective. Developing drugs, that requires a different set of skills than developing, in particular, mechanical devices. Although there is some overlap. If you look at my group within Genentech, our entire department is probably 70% mechanical engineering. That's not the majority of Genentech as a whole, right? It's more bioprocess and these sorts of things. So, we don't always have all those capabilities in a pharma company until you get to a certain size and scale to do that stuff in-house. And then specifically in ophthalmology, I'd say looking at the technologies over the past 10 years or so, the majority of the drug delivery technologies have failed. And they usually fail before they even get into the clinic. So while we might have the money to invest, we don't really have the manpower to invest in, going through an endless list of ideas to try to figure out which ones will be successful. So we need our partners to do some of that legwork up front.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think one of the keys for any drug delivery platform is there has to be some level of proof of concept, and preferably relatively advanced. Some lead that really demonstrates the power of the technology that should, at least be clinic ready, and preferably have at least some early clinical data associated with it. I think platform technologies in general are more challenging to value because you are trying to agree with a potential partner on what the future value is of products that perhaps have not even been contemplated yet. So oftentimes the deals that are done are really focused on single products that have been brought forward by a company that has a drug delivery platform. Now we have had the opportunity to invest in a platform, the print platform for sort of large scale manufacturing of implants that we licensed from Envisia, and with the and fully bought into the potential of using that to bring future products forward and allow us to leverage our small molecule chemistry at Ares. So it can be done on a platform basis, although I'll point out that even with the Envisia acquisition of that technology, they had a lead product that we're advancing in the clinic now, which is a dexamethasone-eluting implant.
I think the other thing I would add is that for traditional modalities, small molecules, therapeutic proteins, and especially outside of therapeutic areas where local delivery is often required, systemic administration, right, by oral dosing or injection is a really well-established path and often viewed as least risky. And I think, for that reason, many pharma companies will tend to emphasize innovation around the molecule, the NME. Obviously application of novel delivery technologies add time, cost, and risk. But I think all that said, the added risk is justified in areas like eye care, where we're really focused on local delivery, and it's often required, where outcomes in real world use are really limited by things like poor compliance. So I think that's a factor that's contributed to this dynamic as well.
Thank you, Sharon, and all the topics that we discussed. This is one of the most, I think, important topics in ophthalmology right now. As I mentioned to you, I'm 25 plus years here, and from the very beginning, I'm hearing these things of drug delivery, and nothing has been moved so far. Only the last one from Jim's group actually approved for glaucoma. I think there is some kind of convincing thing, that, and also let me start with a little bit back, ophthalmology for last, I don't know, maybe 100 years, moving eye drops. Nothing has been moving actually, So when drugs for back of the eye came, and that time they started thinking that, can you extend the time period? Not giving monthly, can you give 6 months? Those things started that time, because for front of the eye diseases like glaucoma, dry eye, nobody actually is serious about that. But there is a potential space even in the front of the eye diseases, not only back of the eye. I think it's a time right now to find out what is the real platform. One of the challenges in the drug delivery is the kinetics of the drug. How long and what speed actually it will go into the surface of the eye or in the back of the eye. We don't know that very clearly yet. So we need some more research into that.
So considering the hurdles, and I'm hearing of different hurdles that played a role in both deciding and looking into drug delivery technologies, how can those be mitigated by working with smaller biotech companies? How can that be done in a larger company, biotech company relationship?
I could probably share some experience from a recent acquisition we had. Foresight Vision 4 was acquired a few years ago, and one of the key things we did there was try to keep that group intact. In the first few years after the acquisition, we even kept the separate site where that team worked. Kind of bringing a technology in sometimes requires you to leave it alone for a while and let it to continue to develop on its own. But even almost 4 years after that acquisition, we still have several folks, several engineers on my team that are working on sort of extensions of that technology for the future. That's one key part. So, kind of understanding where your strengths are and not trying to overwhelm your partner with all of your capabilities in your huge organization, because you may not have all the expertise that they do, and you may actually break the thing that you just bought. The other aspect I would say where we do probably add some value in a bigger group like ours, we have a lot of experience in human factors engineering. We've built a pretty big group around that, and particularly with combination products and surgical devices, as we see often in sort of ocular delivery technologies. Knowing how the user is going to interact with the device and providing that input early on in design can save you from a lot of trouble downstream when you're in clinical trials or even trying to get approvals. So that's probably one place where we did invest a lot, because small companies generally don't have that human factors engineering capability.
Yeah, and I would certainly agree 100% with what Josh is saying, and we were extremely fortunate with our Envisia acquisition that they were physically located just on the other side of a wall from our labs at Aerie, and we literally just had to blow a hole in the wall and put a door in there, and we were able to keep that team physically together. As well as keep the members who were involved in really developing that technology focused on that, even as we integrated them into Aerie. I think that's very important if you're talking about an acquisition. And I think with any discussion with a partner, a smaller biotech company, obviously needs to have the willingness to do early proof of concept work. It's a big ask to expect to go, immediately to talking about a larger deal structure without some data that can be generated in collaboration with the partner to really demonstrate that the technology works the way that the potential licensor needs it to work.
Yeah, no, I think these are all great comments. Fully agree. I think the other things I'd add, obviously partnership is critical. We're flexible in terms of our approach, given the unique needs of each program and the unique needs of each partner in terms of how we approach setting those up. I think the other part is that, when we've invested heavily and perhaps acquired a technology, I think as Josh, you alluded, we'll continue to invest and we'll continue to find ways to apply that capability to enable new opportunities. And, an example there is, as we acquired and developed our Novador platform, our PLGA implant platform, it enabled first a product for the back of the eye. We then continued to adapt and evolve that technology to enable, dosing into the anterior segment as well. Durista is sort of the fruits of that effort. So we will, often continue to invest in the capability over time.
Are there any? I hear from you a lot of talk about the development and the stage of development. Are there any specific challenges with commercialization of a drug device combo in that respect?
Should I start? Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
Yeah. So, a lot of people don't know much about Santen because it was mainly in Asian and European countries. But you have to know that this is a 130 years old company, and only thing we do is ophthalmology, nothing else. We have a big group working. We call it DDS, Drug Delivery System, and we're also talking with a lot of small companies. One of the example is we had a deal with a company called Verily under Google. Yeah, we have a drug delivery technology there. So it's not that we are in the market, but we are close to something that can be in the market. We are we are very much, we have a dedicated group that work on the DDS technologies.
And do you foresee any challenges with commercialization of anything that's a drug delivery combo, Reza?
There might be a challenge, as the first one as mentioned from Jim's group from previous Allergan is already in the market, but the adaptation will take some time for the doctors and also for the patient. Any drug delivery technology need be very safe, and doctors sometimes like as little as invasive those things are. If they are very much invasive, there is always some kind of blockage, like, we talked about punctal plug for a long time. Many companies came up with the punctal plug, but it's not yet there. It's totally non-invasive, but still is not there because of how much drug eluted into the surface. You cannot say. It's a very high intake initially, then it slows down. Those kind of things we have to check very carefully, because we don't need too much drug on the surface at a time. Or we don't, one thing we have to come up with some kind of in between, not too much invasive, not too much non-invasive, something in between we need to go for it.
Yeah, in a big pharma company, we're kind of accustomed to handing the drug over, to the clinic and it's done. Basically, there's no follow-up. But if you're thinking about a complex device, even a surgical technique, now the training burden becomes a lot higher, right? And that's not something we typically see in injectable medications and biopharma. And so I think for our organization, even building that capability in-house, we look to device companies to sort of bring that expertise in. But there's certainly a lot of ophthalmology device companies out there that have that experience. And so I think we've ended up just sort of recruiting that talent over time and building our own team. It's not enough to have a drug that works with these combination products. The user and the surgeon whose hands it's in can really make or break the product in terms of launch, rollout, and successful commercial uptake.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a challenge commercially, depending on what is being delivered. Obviously, if you're delivering a drug that's already approved and perhaps is available as a topical eye drop, and using the example of a punctal plug, how well does it have to work relative to the eye drop in order for the payers to pay a premium for that technology, assuming that it will be priced at a premium relative to the eye drop, which oftentimes is, a drug at a generic stage. So I think that has to be taken, very seriously, obviously early on in evaluating programs, because it's, pricing's not going to get any easier. There's, that pressure is not going away.
I completely agree. Demonstrating differentiation and value in a real world setting is key. I'd like to build on some of Josh's comments as well. I think, one of the unique challenges of combination product development is that, these are worlds that traditionally have been very distinct within many large pharma companies. And a combination product is more than the sum of the constituent parts. So, integration is really critical throughout the entire development and commercialization life cycle. And the earlier the better. I think the other challenge that many of us have encountered over the years is that the engagement starts late sometimes, and we're forced to be reactive because of that. So being, very proactive with that integration and engagement, aligning strategies, aligning, planning, execution is really critical.
Yes, and I will touch base upon timing at a later stage today. So stay tuned. Moving forward, I want to kind of like put a bullseye on your backs, if you wish. So I would like to ask each and every one of you for your strategic key areas of interest. What kind of drug delivery technology would you be interested in looking into? How do those correspond with your existing portfolio? And maybe we should start with Casey. Casey, for Erie, would you, for example, concentrate only on dry eye and glaucoma? Would you want to look at other things as well?
Yes, we have actually initiated programs in retinal disease, specifically AMD and DME, and eventually are planning to pursue glaucoma neuroprotection or neuroenhancement, where we're actually treating the retinal ganglion cells in the back of the eye rather than targeting IOP reduction in the front of the eye. So we have, as I mentioned, I think earlier, a dexamethasone-eluting implant that will be going into phase 3 next year. And we have a rho kinase small molecule inhibitor implant that just went into the clinic this year. And we expect to have a readout last year that's being tested in both wet AMD and DME. We'll have more data on DME, which is where we're focusing our second stage of development for that product. But I think the key for us, the reason we've gotten into this arena is that we think there is a real opportunity to bring more small molecule chemistry into the back of the eye. Much of what is being developed for treatment of retinal diseases are antibodies and protein therapeutics or aptamers, large molecules that naturally have a longer half-life and can enable injections, once every month, once every other month, maybe once a quarter. But there's only a limited number of targets that are extracellular and many targets that are intracellular that could be very interesting and potentially very useful in treating these diseases, but you're not going to get a protein therapeutic to those targets. So we really think focusing on bringing small molecule delivery to the back of the eye will open up many more targets for exploration for treating these back of the eye retinal diseases.
So if I hear you correctly, you're not only looking for drug delivery technologies for marketed products as a life cycle management, you're also looking for those drug delivery technologies for everything that's in development or even at an early stage.
Yes, absolutely. We would look at earlier stages. We'd look at if the small molecule has already been identified by a potential partner, obviously the biological rationale for choosing that target would be very important in deciding whether to collaborate. But yeah, we think with a sustained release delivery system for small molecules where we can provide a duration of effect of at least 4 months and preferably more like 6 months, really would open up the ability to treat the retinal diseases with multiple therapies rather than hoping that you can pick the one target or the one product that's going to adequately treat your patient. I think much as we do in glaucoma, where at least half of the patients are on 2, if not 3 medications. I think to really adequately treat these retinal diseases, which are just as complicated as glaucoma or IOP regulation, ultimately you're going to need some patients are going to need more than one target to be engaged at the same time, and that's really going to require infrequent dosing because we're finally getting there with the anti-VEGFs. Right. Potentially once every 3 months, maybe once every 6 months, or even longer. And then you're going to, come back with a once a month adjunctive treatment. That's not going to be very well received. So we think if you're going to try and develop an adjunctive treatment to the current therapies, you better start out with a longer duration product.
Right. Reza, for Santen, since you're developing products in multiple fields, is there a prioritization? Are there fields that you prioritize over others for drug delivery?
So, Sharon, one thing that, as we have every corner, front of the eye, back of the eye, glaucoma, we have drugs are in the pipeline in every sector. We looked into DDS drug delivery in each and every one. But our prioritization is always in the back of the eye, a little bit over front of the eye. Is the reason behind it is the injections for the back of the eye if it's too frequent, is very cumbersome for not only for the patient, but also for the clinics, for the doctors. If you can extend that up to 6 months or more, it will be much better for both the parties, all the caregivers. For neuroprotection, we are also looking for that. It's not only that we are doing LCMs for old compounds, we are also looking at the new compounds that come into things. But again, for front of the eye group, we're looking for in the dry eye, we're looking for allergy, even for antibiotics, after post-surgical antibiotics. If you give something like contact lens delivery or something, that patient does not need to do eye drops every 4 hours, every 5 hours, taking out their shield from the eye. They can be at rest for next 2 weeks with the drug delivery. So everywhere there is a part of drug delivery for patient betterment in their diagnosis and treatment.
That's good to hear. So Jim, AbbVie, considering now you have an enhanced portfolio in between AbbVie and Allergan, how does their drug delivery mesh the two together? How does it help you diversify?
Yeah, certainly it brings a lot of power to our efforts in eye care, and we continue to invest in building the pipeline in eye care. Certainly, there's expertise that resides across AbbVie that's relevant and useful, right? Specific mechanisms in immunology, and other areas that may be relevant in the eye. So we can now leverage, I think I would agree very much with many of the points that Reza made. We continue to invest in delivery capabilities across all of the key, Allergan eye care areas of interest: retina, glaucoma, dry eye, as well as pharmacologic-based refractive as well. And I'd also, echo what Reza said around the burden of intravitreal injection being, a real significant problem that we continue to work to address.
And Josh, last but not least, is for Sight Vision for a one and done. Are you looking at others? What's next for you?
Well, I mean, there's certainly a tremendous focus on back of the eye retinal disease. It's where a lot of the drugs that are in development in our portfolio happen to land. So there's a need for that sort of technology, and we certainly view the port delivery system implant as a technology that can be applied to other similar molecules. I mean, there is some customization required, right? Not everything is going to fit into the drug payload or the diffusion ability through that kind of implant. So there has to be some evaluation of that along with heat stability and some other considerations for an indwelling implant. But if I look at the future, I see things like gene therapies that are going to require, very specific local delivery. And, we'd love to give someone an oral medication to solve all their ophthalmology problems, but that's just not practical, right? So I think the direction we're headed is in terms of even greater targeting of the delivery of the things that are in development in our portfolio. So we're seeking technologies that will enable those sorts of local delivery approaches, whether it's the front of the eye, back of the eye, all of that.
Fair enough. So now we're going into the speed dating round. What we will ask of you is not to think too much, but rather shoot. So let's start with, with the same cycle that we started off so far. Would you consider investing in drug delivery platform that is not necessarily take on in existing products? What would be parameters for that? Josh, do you want to be the first one to go?
Sure. And I think the answer is yes, if you can see a match with the future portfolio. So even if something isn't currently, a commercial product or close to commercialization, but you've got a lot of things in the portfolio that would need that technology, we're always trying to predict the future. And absolutely, we would want to invest in those sorts of technologies. I think the key is how much do you invest and how much risk do you take on versus the partner? So we look for partners that have some clinical experience, even if it's not, in a clinical trial, that they have actual clinicians using the product. And it's not just researchers in a lab. If you put 5 PhDs to work for 3 years, you can probably do anything once. We want to see if it's repeatable and if it's, appropriate for the user population. And, there's a solid intellectual property portfolio and some sense of the regulatory limitations, because early in development, if you're thinking about these things, you can put yourself in a much better position to be successful as a commercial product. So absolutely, we look for the right partners, but there are some parameters around that.
What would be those? What will be those parameters?
It's the awareness of the field, it's actual experience with use in the clinic or use in the hands of users. So we've had folks bring ideas that have never been seen by an ophthalmologist to treat, a disease of the eye. And as we investigate them a little bit further, I think we realized if an ophthalmologist had handled this product 6 months earlier, they could have avoided a lot of design errors, or they could have avoided a lot of problems that need to be undone as they've advanced their design without user input. So that's why getting some of that preclinical experience or even having the product in the hand of users is really important early on. So if you're missing that, I think alarm bells start to go off when we start assessing a technology like that.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're also open to technologies that would be focused on something other than the drugs that we're already developing at ARI. We actually, as I mentioned earlier, with our Envisia acquisition, brought in one of those products from Envisia that was not something that was in our pipeline or even on our radar at the time, but it's worked out very well for us. I think there's you just have to be willing and even eager to seek out other people's ideas in terms of how to address these various diseases in the retina. So absolutely, we would be open to that.
Yeah, I just respond by saying our investments in delivery, capabilities are always directed at a specific product opportunity. We don't tend to invest in technology for its own sake. But again, we will then look to adapt and build capability to enable new opportunities as well.
And my response will be always yes. Santen is very open with the new technologies. Our business development group and my group, the OIC, are very involved. We almost talk every week with some companies. We believe in science. It could be preclinical or clinical, doesn't matter. If there's a science and good IP behind it, we'll look into that.
So Reza, would that be the same rationale as Jim and AbbVie, where you would target a drug delivery for a specific product, and the fact that this is a platform is nice to have, but not a necessary thing for you to examine?
It's not nice to have, it should have actually to me, because we believe that drug delivery is the future of ophthalmology. You cannot put eye drops all day long. There should be something for both front and back of the eye.
So you would consider a platform a more valuable asset for you than
Exactly.
That's interesting. That's great. I heard some thoughts from you earlier on with regards to the stage of development and with regards to where you're in licensing, and with regards to when in the life cycle management of your product, you're starting to look for drug delivery technologies. Casey mentioned you're starting very early on with ARI. I'd like to hear your thoughts about the timing. What is a good timing for you to basically in-license those technologies?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it depends what your focus is, what you're trying to accomplish. So, we have had some interest and done some exploration, for example, in intracameral delivery of our notarsidil molecule, the active ingredient in Repressa. So I think, we began looking at that, within a year or two of launch. I don't think it's ever too early to start considering, are there other things you can do to enhance the utility of a drug for the patients? In our case, the intracameral delivery didn't work very well with that drug because it doesn't diffuse very far from the implant. So you end up getting a very localized effect that's not as effective as the eye drop, which can target the full 360 degrees of the trabecular meshwork. But no, I think you can start early in a case like that where you have a product and you're looking at other delivery modalities for it. And then, of course, for back of the eye retinal delivery, In our case, with small molecules, we have to pair them from the very outset with a drug delivery technology. If you inject a small molecule in the back of the eye without some sort of sustained release, it'll be gone, within a day or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with what's been said. I think, new molecules bring risks and, novel delivery technologies bring risks. And so I think a lot of drug delivery tends to happen with molecules that have achieved proof of concept. They may already be approved for other indications. But it really depends on the needs. And, certainly in areas where there's high unmet need, it can be worth, taking the risk to combine a novel molecule with a novel delivery technology.
Reza?
It depends actually, as Casey mentioned, actually, sometimes we start very early on, sometimes, or when you start the phase 3, we start the drug delivery technology at the same time. So it all depends actually, how comfortable we are with the drug. And as Jim mentioned, the reason we are doing with the old compound, which approved compound, is that we don't want to take risk on the both end with the new device and the new drug. So at least one part is confirmed that, the drug is approved drug. We know the drug works. Then we can check with the device. If the study failed with the new device and new drug, you don't know which one is failed actually. Is it drug or the device? And that's one of the reasons actually everybody's doing with the old approved drug.
If the delivery technology is something straightforward like a prefilled syringe, where you're pretty sure it's going to work,
Exactly.
that's something that probably comes into play maybe phase 3 or even post-launch. But I heard a comment earlier that the half-life, if it's so short, like you can't even keep it in the eye long enough to get proof of concept. And so I think in those cases, absolutely, we would have to invest, because we don't want to throw out a good molecule just because there's not a reasonable way to deliver it over time, in the right spot of the eye. And treatment burden is becoming an issue. Ophthalmology capacity, it's in practice is not great, and certainly in the conditions right now with this pandemic, it doesn't get any easier, right? So anything we can do to reduce the number of interactions in the clinic, I think is just going to provide better outcomes for patients in the long term. So this is pretty much being looked at for everything in the portfolio as early as we see kind of a phase 1 or phase 2 proof of concept study.
So, if I may, there's something to be said about the chicken and the egg here for small companies, where if you are starting to, as a reformulating company, you're taking a known drug and reformulates it, there's low valuations for the company, but rather a low risk for you guys to in-license. While if you're taking a new molecular entity, then there's high valuation for the company, higher risk, but less of an appetite for you to take it forward. So that's a bit of a chicken and an egg. We'll try to answer this, as a part of, or leave it as an open question for this panel going forward. Jim, did you want to comment on the latter, considering your experience with vision for Sight Vision 4?
Sorry, were you, Josh?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Josh.
I think that might be one for me. So if I guess, did we buy the chicken or did we buy the egg? I'm not sure, but we have one of them in house already. So it makes it a lot easier to do the testing with kind of everything that comes through. That was not the case before we saw sort of the proof of concept and saw the successful clinical results. But there are limitations to that technology. I think I mentioned earlier, drug payload may be a concern. Drug molecule stability could be another issue. That makes it a lot easier, but it's also sort of opened the eyes of our researchers to the possibility of doing some of these things. So even if you have a compound that doesn't fit into something like the port delivery system implant, I think we're starting to see our researchers ask questions like, well, hold on, just because I have not an acceptable half-life for injection, what else is out there that I could do? And they've started to look at other technologies, and they'll bring questions to our team about, what's feasible, what's not. By getting that dialogue started earlier, we find that we can avoid some of the sort of easy mistakes where maybe the formulation could have been a higher concentration if we had just thought about it a little more carefully at the beginning of development. So we have a chance to influence those things earlier on to maybe make it easier to apply some of these delivery technologies in the future. So screening for heat stability, higher concentration capability, these sorts of things become critical even before you get to phase 1.
So that brings us to the candy or the $1 million questions round. The chicken and the egg maybe begs for potential frameworks or innovative frameworks for collaboration with those drug delivery technologies. What comes to mind when you're thinking about or considering drug delivery technologies are often platforms and often have to play around with between reformulating and actually working with new molecular entities. Is there a magic formula for collaboration with those small companies? Have you done this? Are you contemplating this? And if you can teach us from your experience with that. Who wants
maybe
to start?
I can jump in maybe. Historically, Allergan Eye Care has been very active in partnering and acquiring delivery technologies. And, the deals have ranged from things like, license agreements, to outright acquisition. I mentioned flexibility. So, we like to start with a staged process when we're looking at new technologies. Of course, we'll start initially with non-confidential discussions and progress from there if there's interest mutually to in-depth technical discussions, under CDA. We really like to be able to evaluate technologies in-house under MTA-like agreements because it gives us an opportunity to be hands-on with the technology to sort of, leverage our own disease area expertise as well as non-clinical models that we've developed over time and really understand, what can be achieved with our molecule of interest. Not every company is open to working, in that way, but it is a preferred approach for us. And then again, I think, where you go from there has to be flexible depending on the needs of the situation.
Yeah, and I would agree that a staged approach is really important. You can have a beautiful delivery technology that's been demonstrated, with 4 or 5 different types of molecules, and that's no guarantee at all that it's going to work with the next molecule, and particularly with the molecule that your potential partner may be most interested in. So it certainly worked best for us to begin in a very collaborative and focused way, sort of agree, what proof of concept looks like. And if we can get over that hurdle, then to engage in discussions around a larger sort of licensing or acquisition possibility. But it's very hard to start the discussions at those points, unless what you're after is a drug device combination that they've already taken into the clinic, basically.
I totally agree with Jim and Casey actually on this thing because, I give you a simple example. Suppose a small company come with a glaucoma drug delivery with timolol, right? We might not be interested in timolol. We look at the platform. We talk to them in depth actually because we are very fortunate to have a lot of glaucoma compounds in our pipeline that we think that we can use those things. So that's why the platform technology is very important to me, that whether we can use, because if you have a good pipeline of drugs, you can easily apply to other things. It is not only for one drug. Goes both in front of the eye and back of the eye.
I think we're also seeing like a greater comfort within our organization to let the partner go further in development. So more of a license arrangement rather than trying to bring the technology in-house. The portfolio has probably gotten more diverse over time and it expanded tremendously. And we just don't have the resources to pursue all these opportunities simultaneously. So I think we'd even look at, funding development in an external partner through later stages of clinical development than perhaps we would have in the past.
Fair enough. And for the last question of the day, what's a holy grail for you? Are all drug delivery technologies created equal? Is there something that you really covet?
No moving parts. No, seriously, if it can be somewhat independent of the drug molecule and doesn't require some complex chemical process to integrate the drug with the delivery technology, that's certainly going to be easier to leverage across different molecules. But that's not always going to be possible. Many of the formulation-based approaches to long-acting delivery just haven't worked out as well as we had hoped. So we're always looking for things that you can test with the existing compounds and maybe just requires some concentration changes or other minor modifications to an existing compound works.
Yeah, there can't be a single holy grail for delivery to both front and the back of the eye, because the technologies, begin typically by targeting a particular tissue, and you pretty much have to begin that way. So that's going to lead to differences in how the technology works. Then you have that complication I was mentioning earlier, particularly with small molecules, where the chemistry and the chemical properties of the molecule you're trying to pair it with can be very different from one molecule to the next. So certainly, I certainly agree with Josh. The less complex, the better. But you also have to just be willing to accept some need for collecting empirical data for exactly what you're interested in.
I think achieving real long-term delivery, especially of things like proteins in the back of the eye, has been a tough challenge that many of us have been investing for years and years. Exciting progress in that space. I think the other area that has been discussed a lot as a holy grail is topical delivery. Could you actually someday identify solutions that will allow you to deliver topically to the back of the eye? And again, tremendous challenges there, especially for large polar molecules. I'm not holding my breath that we'll see solutions there soon, but I would hold that up as one holy grail.
I totally agree with Jim. We are thinking about putting drops as eye drops, and it will go to the back of the eye. And that challenge I don't know when we'll see the result actually, because it's not going there. We know that it's going there, but not at the concentration that it will work. So I don't think that everything will match with the front and back of the eye, although maximum companies are looking for back of the eye right now because of all the difficulties of giving injections and how long we can sustain the drug into the system. That's the most holy grail now.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been fascinating. I've learned a lot. I'm sure our audience as well. I look forward to learning more in future drug delivery showcases. And I want to thank you for your time and effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us. We encourage you to stick around and continue networking for the next hour. It's as simple as clicking on someone's name under the People tab and sending them a message or inviting them to a video meeting. Sign up today at ois.net. Until then, stay safe and keep innovating.